Hello everyone, welcome back. I am super excited today because if you look at my table, it's pretty obvious that we're going to be using some lovely red wine. This is actually a Beaujolais Village wine, which is a very classic, famous French. It's not an expensive one. It's like that very hearty, common people type of wine that I really love. The recipe of the day we're making is a ribeye steak with a red wine sauce. We're not making the Bordelaise, which takes too long and it takes a lot of money. Today we're looking at the sauce Marchand de Vin, which is an alternative, cheap and simple option of the red wine sauce. But it's equally delicious. Okay, so from what you can see on the screen over here, the ingredients needed for that recipe are very few, so it's not a super complicated sauce. What I wanted to say, or to tell you, is read what kind of taste to expect from that sauce, and mainly you're gonna have like a red wine, buttery shallot taste. These are the main tastes, the main flavors you're gonna find in that sauce, okay? With, of course, that nice meaty taste. To start off, I'm just going to show you my garnish. This is really for the curious, and you don't have to follow this. You can use any garnish you want. I'm using my special steel pan, and I'm just going to deep fry or shallow fry some lovely potatoes in here that I'm going to put in plenty of oil. And then I'm going to add a bit of garlic and a bit of parsley, but it's up to you to really do whatever you like. Hint of salt, not too much with the salt, you have to be easy, and just a bit of pepper. So when your potato gets a bit of color like this, I've removed the excess of oil, don't worry, in France we not always keep the oil, people get a bit scared. And then I'm gonna mix my potatoes by hand, because this type of pan, you don't use a spoon or anything. You basically take your potatoes and by hand you're gonna start breaking them by moving them in the pan. This is the frying and tossing of the garlic. So pieces can go flying on the side, don't worry, it's a bistro style, it's okay. Alright, now it's been, cooking a few minutes, and I'm just finishing off with some fresh parsley on the top. And you hear that sizzle? That's perfect. And again, I'm gonna be tossing around and make sure everything is nice and cooked, and I'm gonna reserve this in a bowl for later on to serve with my steak. And now we can start our meat. So, as you can see here, I've got a beautiful ribeye steak. It's very thick, and that's going to take approximately 10 to 12 minutes to cook. So it takes quite some time. I've got my pan here, again the same frying pan, a high heat, and I've got 4 tablespoons of ground nut oil. If you don't know what that is, this is it, peanut oil. And because that's very good for frying. So a very high heat. When your oil reaches the smoking point, like here, you're going to immediately put your meat in there. I've left this for 2 minutes, and I'm going to turn it over. You can see nice and brown color, that's what we want. When this is done, I'm going to put my chop on a low fire, on a low heat on the side, to let it cook gently. So at this time you can use a timer and make sure you cook it for another 8 minutes at least to get a medium rare, while turning it from time to time. Now that your meat is cooking, we're going to start the shallots. On the pan on the side, I take a non-stick pan, I'm going to melt some butter. Okay, my butter is ready. So you put all of your shallots, mix them well into the butter, and don't worry if there's a lot of butter, because we're going to use this for the meat. And you're going to let them on low heat, they just need to sweat, okay, no coloration. Right, when your shallots are ready, you're going to filter that butter all over your meat. Okay, to infuse the meat already with that nice and strong shallot kind of taste. When it's done, put it back on the heat. After that, you put your shallots in a little container, and we're going to reserve them for the end. My meat is now done, and the only thing left to do is to put it on a tray on the side, and you have to leave it to rest. So I'm putting a piece of foil, and I'm going to be concentrating on my sauce. Right, as soon as your meat is resting, I've put it in a warm oven just to keep it warm, to make sure it rests nicely. The first step you're going to do is get rid of the excess of oil. Okay, so you just want to leave a little bit in there, and instead of the oil, we're going to replace that with a nudge of butter. As soon as the butter is melted, add your shallots, and now I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of flour. That's gonna make sure my sauce is gonna thicken. Time for the wine, 20 centiliter. Yeah. And we're gonna boil this and reduce this to basically at least until you've got only a few tablespoons left. All right, look at that. My sauce has greatly reduced. It's nice and thick. And from here, you're gonna basically be adding a pinch of sugar just to cut the acidity of the wine. Some salt, that's very important. Make sure you got enough salt. A hint of pepper. Okay, so these are all the flavors that are gonna go into your sauce. You mix well. You can now put the heat off. And we're gonna put the final touch, which is basically a little bit of parsley and a tiny extra little bit of butter. And this has to happen off the heat. When you got everything, you mix, and when the butter has finished to melt, we're gonna serve. Okay guys, the table is served. So this is basically a typical French table. I've got my potatoes on the side because this piece of meat, I've got my lovely meat here, and the way it's served, usually it's in a dish, but you would put all of your big steak on there because this is the most important. And that dish is actually covered in sauce. So as much as we like to see the meat, in France, we cover the meat with our red wine sauce. Time for lunch. This is really, look at these colors, the replica of a typical bistro table you would get with that lovely ribeye, the red wine sauce, simple potatoes, and of course a glass of Beaujolais. You know, I love this type of setting and this type of food. So I'm gonna enjoy this for today for my lunch. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. And of course, like always, send me your comments, ask me questions, and I try to respond to everything. And hopefully I see you all next time on the next video. Bye bye.